Yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
Yep, that's what I've been hearing. Although there are conflicting messages.
All right, we are live now, so welcome everyone to the Economic Development Committee meeting for Monday, May 19th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. Ms. Lobeck, would you please call roll?
Councilmember Ottenberg,
Here.
Councilmember Preston,
Here.
Councilmember Trottier, Councilmember Farmer,
Here.
Councilmember McCutcheon,
Here.
Councilmember Bockert, Councilmember
Second.
Kranz,
Here.
Councilmember Albers.
Here. Thank you. We do have a quorum, so that's always good. Next, we move on to the election of chair and vice chair. And do I solicit the nominations or do you do that?
We confirm with the city attorney, and since you are currently you're the chair right now, so you can carry out that task, and then whoever is elected, or even if it is yourself, then that person would resume having forward.
Perfect. All right. In that case, I will entertain nominations for the position of chair of this committee. Mr. Preston.
I nominate you.
Thank you.
I'll second you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Do we have any other nominations? Seeing none, all those in favor of the re-election of Scott Frederick Ottenberg as chair of the Economic Development Committee, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Next, we move on to the election of vice chair, and unless anyone has any nominations for this position, I will make one. I would like to nominate Mr. Preston as vice chair of this committee. Mr. Farmer seconds. All right, very good. Do we have any other nominations for the position of vice chair of this committee? Seeing none, all those in favor of the election of Mr. Preston as vice chair of this committee signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Well, next we move on to approval of the minutes from the April 22nd meeting.
Chair, can I add a note on that?
Please do.
Thank you. Just one note, I did, obviously, looking at five individuals that are replacing the former committee members. Wanted to check in with our city attorney to see if there's any issue with approving minutes that you were not there. Do you need to abstain? The answer is no. You don't need to abstain. It will reflect it in the former minutes that unless you have a specific issue, there's no issue not abstaining from it and voting yes, because the minutes do reflect that you were not part of that. So just wanted to provide that context beforehand, but you still do need 6 individuals. You would need 4 to pass it.
4 to pass, so, but just to confirm, new members of the committee can vote either to
Uh-oh.
Everyone, if you're with us right now, we will be back in 2 seconds where our computer is getting booted back up. All right, Chair, we should be good to go.
All right, very good. So we were on item number 5, public comment. There's no one out in the audience. Do we have anyone online who wishes to make public comment?
And if you would like to make public comment, if you want to go ahead and use the raise hand feature, we do have 2 members, but no one is raising their hand at this time, Chair.
All right, very good. Thank you. Then we will move on to discussion items. Under for information, we had an item here, committee introductions, and that was designed primarily for the 2 new members of the committee to get to know some of the other members of the council that they're going to be serving with on this committee, seeing as how neither of the 2 members of the council and of this committee, I should say, are here. I think we can safely dispense with that unless anyone objects. All right, seeing no objection, then we will move on to an update on business changes and other business news here in the city. And for that, I will turn things over to, do I turn this over to you, City Administrator, or to Ms. Bassan?
I will kick it off, but then I'll pass it off to our new Economic Communications Manager.
Perfect.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple quick updates on the business front. Wanted to, and many individuals here tonight, we're actually at the ribbon cutting, but Good News Brewing officially opened. They had a soft opening about 2 weeks ago on May 4th, but they had their official opening and a ribbon cutting with the city on this past Friday here on May 16th. They are now fully open for business. The ribbon cutting had quite a few individuals in attendance, and it was marked with a pretty nice day. So if you're there, I know some of us are here. So great time over there. Wanted to give a quick update as well on the Chapter 100 request, where that is and where it's going to full city council. As discussed at this committee, the initial request came in about a month and a half ago, and then it went to council. The council then authorized the funding agreement that would allow them to pretty much pay for the legal services associated with it. At this time, that cost benefit analysis is being conducted by Gilmore Bell. That'll be actually finished in here about a week, and it'll be submitted to the council. And then it shouldn't actually come back for formal review here's the important part. So after we get this cost benefit analysis, that then needs to go to each one of the taxing districts, and we have to get receipt that they received it. Once they have receipt that they received it, we have 20 days that need to take place before you can have any type of public hearing. So just looking at the schedule, if they were to turn it in within a week, that would be the July city council meeting where any formal action would actually be on the table. We could have, and we would most likely have the cost benefit analysis either discussed at a subsequent meeting, if referred back, but we could have it on the work session just for informational purposes. But
For the council to take a look at it, it probably would not be until July.
July for a public hearing, and if there was a bill, that'd be.
All right,
I have
thank
a
you.
question. What are the taxing districts?
The taxing districts are St. Louis County, the Library District, St. Louis Community College. But the biggest one's Rockwood School District, because the Metro West, in this case, would actually get a pilot payment because they can opt out of the program.
What about the special school district
The special school district would also get.
and a zoo?
Yep.
Those are tagged,
Yep, everyone that gets a piece of that pie would get.
so we have probably about 13 groups that
Give or
are
take,
gonna
yeah,
be
probably.
There's
impacted.
quite a few.
Okay,
Mr. Farmer.
I mean, I understand the point of waiting to get the numbers back, but are we preliminarily reaching out to any of these people, or is Mr. Cohen or whatever to try to?
Yes, so the individual developer is waiting for that cost benefit analysis to set up official meetings, but before any council action would take place, they would be. And the department has said, once, we will make the connection if they need it, but we are not going to support one way or another. We'll just make sure that they are aware.
I'm just gonna suggest that it doesn't seem like a great course. In terms of I mean, they gotta get the numbers, but what inevitably winds up happening is this thing's gonna have a public hearing in July. Well, we're gonna have to then figure out in July what's gonna happen, more than likely it'll ask for 2 readings. And so we're gonna be I doubt Rockwood is going to be super enthusiastic about this. I'm just guessing, so. I know it's not really our place to do any of these things. I'm just saying we might want to encourage the developer to
Joe,
do this thing or?
Rockwood did not do anything when, down in Eureka, they gave chapter 11 to an Aldi's. And, the school district's losing $40,000 a year for the next 20 years. I called the chief, financial officer about it. And it was like, well, I don't know if we wanted to contest this or not. You're gonna have the store there, it's gonna generate sales tax. Well, they don't get any money from it.
Right.
They lose $40,000 a year.
They're not getting any money now. I guess my point is, like,
Yeah.
this, in my opinion, whatever iteration of this we've done, and I think, I might be wrong, Scott, you've been on a few of these runs with this thing. I appreciate that this seems like a really good project that we're looking at over here, and I would genuinely like to be able to support it, but every single time we do this, it is like the last minute. I don't get why we keep doing it this way. Like, we did it with the Prime Place, we did it with whatever the next thing was gonna be called, like, it just doesn't seem from a public perspective, or people that are like maybe on the fence on the council, that like waiting until the very last minute to then throw a bunch of numbers at people is the world's best plan.
You and I had spoken about this last week a little bit. What did the city attorney say were the requirements in terms of how we move forward?
So
with
the
this?
requirements are for minimum standards, but typically the advice was to wait till you have the formal numbers, because the developer could withdraw at any time. That doesn't mean that they could not reach out at any given time here as well. The department could reach out to them preliminary, but we do have
It's not our job.
yeah, that's,
I'm not telling you guys to do it.
okay.
I'm saying, like, whoever is having a conversation with Mr. Cohn should perhaps illuminate him to the possibility that waiting for the last minute on this is not a great plan.
No, and that is agreed by the department too, and that's something that in each discussion, we have definitely pushed. They need to be making contact with all the taxing.
The number of these people he should probably know already from past activities.
Yep.
Right.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. cut
That's
you off.
right. But I wanna know how many times chapter 100 has been used for an apartment in the county.
Not very many times.
Can you get that information or
Yeah.
not?
We can get that information.
Yeah. Okay, appreciate it.
Certainly.
Cliff,
Well, is just a general question, with him being on the P and Z, is there a conflict of interest with that, being the developer? And if not a conflict of interest, is it kind of just a bad look?
It's appearance is what it is.
Tom, why don't you address that and tell me what you, or tell the rest of the committee what you told me?
Yeah, so in this case, it is completely in the city's eyes, at least from the legal side of things, there is no issue with them requesting it. That said, if the individual developer would not have abstained from the vote, that would have, when they voted to approve their rezoning request, that would look a little bit more not great, and then we'd start getting into more of an ethics area. That said, from our legal counsel, as of right now, there's legally no issue with them requesting this, especially with the fact that Tom Kyman and the other developing entity, in this case Mia Rose, is the one that's actually carrying out the construction. But it does.
It could end up just being a bad look or a cause for concern by people when they look at it, you know?
Yeah, Tom, I hear what you.
Yeah, officially, it's not, but superficially, it could look that way.
Well, I'm wondering if there isn't a problem with them asking, that's fine. Is there a problem with us granting it?
No, there would be nothing wrong with us granting it either.
No.
But
There's nothing wrong with us
the
granting
PR
it.
side of things and also the
Yeah.
discussion amongst the council, that is the discussion that needs to take place.
Legal is one thing, PR is another.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
legally, there's no issue, but PR wise, yes.
Is my hand raised?
Yes.
Yes, Deb, go ahead. I'm sorry if we kept you waiting.
Yeah, Mr. Cohn being on P and Z and having projects before city council, and as long as he's been on there, I mean, he's been on there longer than what is typical. You know, I've had concerns all along about any of his developments or projects moving forward. you can say, well, he abstains, but just because he's sitting there, makes a huge difference. If he wasn't sitting there, people may vote differently. So, yeah, I think it's a PR issue, and I've been concerned about it for a very long time.
Thank you. I think we have Cliff, no, all right, Chris?
Just to readdress this, because if we're gonna talk about optics on it, this sales tax exclusion would be viable and available to all developers, correct, within town center? And we established that almost none of the building supplies would actually even be purchased locally, if even somewhat, maybe call regionally, but certainly not within Wildwood. So, I agree the optics of it look a little suspect at first, but the long-term benefit of this, what does it happen a few times in every few years when someone else is redeveloping a space and that's the end of it? It's not ongoing like an Aldi's or something like that would be producing, sales tax we'd be missing out on a perpetual and daily basis. It's like one of those very slightly incremental things every now and again. So I guess I can certainly see the optics, but I don't know if there will really be any measurable long-term impact of it.
Jim?
We're talking $3.5 million. Now, this sales tax, he's gonna buy outside of the county. I think it's use sales tax. You're talking $1.175 million that other cities and towns are not gonna get if we approve of this. So if some other city did that to Wildwood, I'd be pretty upset. So you're actually screwing other cities and towns out of $1.175 million. That's a lot of money. And this looks bad. The appearance is bad. I don't know why Mr. Combs is doing this. I know him personally. He's a good guy, but he's putting us in a bad situation and I don't like it. And I'll fight this all the way.
All right, any other comments on this particular issue? Mr. Farmer?
I just think, Tom, if you can, like, the whole idea, if we do this, like the city we own something.
You own the land technically on paper
Right.
for the duration of the bond.
I just think, because I'm in agreement that this is optically just, it's not a good look, but like, we need to be super specifically clear with a message as to what exactly that means and how that impacts us. Because those are the things, that's the thing where, like, even if it is legally required to do it. But, we've had other situations in the city where we pass something that is seemingly only applicable in one place. And that is, in my estimation, a pretty unwise choice. Also, we don't necessarily get a lot of buildings built around here, but I'm not 100% sure that, like, how do you say no after this?
After you say this was
If we approve it and then somebody else shows up and wants to build something else, how do we say no?
well, that's when it comes down to, and the figures all have to be on the up and up, obviously, and that's where the cost analysis comes in, but once the actual transaction takes place, the city, in theory, can hold some benchmarks. It gives us as a city a little bit more power to say, hey, we expect to have this done by this date. This
Yeah,
date by this
no,
date.
I get that. I'm not saying there aren't some benefits to it, but I'm just saying, like, let's say, somebody comes in and the thing, wherever it is back here, the big land is open and they propose apartment buildings. So if some other developer comes in after we've granted this and goes, we would like chapter 100 too, and we say, no,
So that and that, okay, I get what you're saying.
then they go, do I just have to sit on P and Z to get this?
No, but that said, we do have an economic development incentive policy that was followed in this case. They submitted the formal application. You pretty much have to.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying I'm not saying what we're doing isn't above board. I am asking, if we approve this as a council member, there is no way I can conceive of that I would then deny it to somebody else. That would be insane.
Yeah, I mean, that could be a perspective, but at the end of the day, they have to go through this formal process. And that's.
I get it.
It's a bad law. It's a bad law.
And that said, the council can act as, they can deny it, their
Well, you-
request as well.
Tom, you're gonna issue bonds too, right? You're gonna be doing bonds for 20 years? What do you sell the bonds to Cone? Is that how that works?
I would not issue any bonds, but the city in this case, it's not, I think,
Well, what municipal bonds? It's in the law, chapter 100. I was reading about it.
the bonds are a kind of a term that covers up that land lease, so transferring the ownership. It's more so on paper. It's not any debt obligation. So at the end of the day, if this project,
So we're gonna own it for we're gonna own this apartment for 20 years, right? Is that true?
it would be 10 years.
So the city's gonna own the apartment, right?
On paper, yes.
Yeah,
That would be the
that's
case.
weird.
And that said, the council can deny it. I'm not speaking for or against.
I'm just throwing out my opinion. And as you can tell, I threw too many of the opinions out, but that's how I feel. I don't think the public will see this in a good light, that's all. I've already got one comment from a neighbor. So anyway. I get it.
Is Mr. Cohn approved for the new P and Z? Is he still on it going forward?
Yeah,
We voted him on last year.
he's on, so I think he's got a 2-year term or something.
Would it help if he would resign?
I mean, I don't think it would hurt, but
That
at
would
this
be a
point,
decision that he would have to make.
Well, I know,
Yeah.
it's just, when you're listening to it, it's just a bad look.
Yeah.
But it's a bad law, what it does to schools and to other towns.
All right, Deb, you've got your hand up, I'm sorry.
6
Yeah.
months.
Right, yeah.
Oh, what, I was just gonna say, what Mr. Farmer said, so I'm sorry, I forgot to take it down.
Nope, not a problem. All right, so I think we've had a good discussion on this issue.
Makes sense.
We've still got a lot more information to receive in terms of, the financial analysis on this topic. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of additional discussion as we move forward. So, we're a long way towards, approving or disapproving anything.
Yes.
All right, so, Mr. Lee, why don't you continue with your update?
Thank you, Chair. All right, a couple other updates and then we'll turn it over to our Economic Development Manager. Singer's Ice Cream's officially open as well. The department's been in contact with the owners and we'll be working to do a ribbon cutting for them. So just a heads up, that'll be coming out. We'll be publicizing that as well. American Mattress is moving in right next to where Singer's Ice Cream actually is, over at 2440 Taylor Road, another mattress store. It is right next to Deerberg's in that plaza. And the department has reached out to them. They have not gotten back to us with a specific, what, they're selling mattresses, but they have a location in Baldwin. They just have not gotten back to us with the details of when they're opening, what signage they're gonna be putting up. But this is our second mattress store in the last 6 months, so we might have a trend. How many more?
Now,
mattress
President's
stores
Can we
Day.
accommodate?
Any retail plaza actually.
This is a bedroom community, so that.
It is.
What a better fit.
It is bedrooms.
Could the city have a President's Day sale for everything?
It's coming up, man. This.
No, that, in theory, we could have a precedent. I don't think we could sell mattresses. I mean, the city could get that business, but, some other news though, here in the town center, right where Fountain Place is. Originally, there was an inquiry that Sip and Savor Wine, Spirits and More was going to be purchasing them moving into 174 Plaza Drive. Then that kind of went quiet for a while and requesting additional information about needing a liquor license, but also needing a business license. It was found that Advanced Carpet had bought in the place, and now we have a carpet store that would be moving in there, which they are currently working on some interior renovations, but they'll be opening within the next couple months.
Where at now?
Right here at the plaza,
Oh, okay.
where you have there's a CBRE still for sale sign in there, but it has been purchased. They took down the actual for sale sign, but it still says CBRE.
It's a standalone building.
Yeah, standalone building. It used to have Heels Boutique.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it
Yeah.
had heels already, yeah.
And then it went over to the timeshare place, but it's gone through a couple transitions. But now it seems like that whole it's technically two different parcels, if you will, not parcels, storefronts. And in this case, both will be accommodated by the carpet store, offering a different kind of selection of carpets and rugs. So they also do the install, so it's kind of a show. All right, a couple more here, sorry. Just wanted to give a quick update that the farmer's market will be taking place starting on May 24th, Saturday. That'll go all the way through October 4th. So that's coming right up, actually this weekend. So make sure to come on out. It's over at the plaza, across the street, 221 Plaza Drive. Other than that, just want to make a quick note that this Thursday, May 29th, we do have a ribbon cutting over at the community college. It's more so for just city officials and other officials that have been instrumental in building the secondary building, but that'll take place at 10:30 a.m. Thursday, May 29th this week. So
Next week.
Yes, sorry, next week, Thursday next week, and we hope everyone can make it. That building is gonna bring in a lot of different students. They're expecting to go from 500 to 2,000 students over the next couple of years.
Wow.
So good news on that front. And then quick update on Bros Fish, Shrimp and More. I know some individuals have reached out, some residents have reached out to see what's going on there. They do still plan on opening. What happened was they had some those final rounds of inspections that they were going through. They found a couple things that they did not identify, but very expensive and costly repairs that they had to do to be able to get open. And in this case, they are hoping to be open this summer, but they did not firm down a specific date. That's where we're at now, but they said they should be open. All right, but then, top of that, Paula, you had some updates. Paula has.
Mind if I ask a quick question? Benedetto's, what's the schedule for something moving in there?
So it's Chula Indian Hearth that is moving in there, but they have not confirmed a schedule when they would be open.
All right.
So they are still doing some interior renovations. I think they are changing it from kind of the Italian restaurante the vibe that they had in that building. They're doing they're changing the interior of that building to add in a different type of aesthetic. And they are also, we did make contact with the property owners. They are looking into the possibility of replacing the projection sign that was there before with a different, they have not submitted any of the permitting yet though. So wait and see.
Thank you.
All right, to give a quick update, Paula has been visiting with a lot of businesses over her first couple of weeks here, first month. I thought it would be pertinent to share some of the feedback that the business community has been bringing in, and we share that here today.
So in the packet that Colleen has so kindly printed out, you'll see a 5-page memo. It's titled Economic Development, Current Findings and Next Steps. So this is a summary of the dozens of conversations I've had over the last month with residents, businesses, groups, about how they feel about the pulse of Wildwood, what challenges they're facing, and what they think needs to change and what they're hoping for the future. So you'll see an overview, feedback from stakeholders, including business environment concerns, digital signage concerns. I also looked at what's happening and how other similarly sized cities approach digital signs, from Johns Creek in Georgia and Parker, Colorado to Charleston County, South Carolina. And these models do show that cities can support business visibility while preserving community character. I also looked at, so we also have a new series about businesses and profiling different businesses of different industries and sizes. We've had the Wildwood Fitness Collective, 3 French Hens, and Mattress Dogs so far. And we have the Wildwood YMCA coming up. We have the Wildwood Hotel coming up. And so all these profiles are definitely doing really well on social media. These conversations, these profiles are woven into this feedback. So you'll see a section on next steps and kind of what I'm proposing and how the economic development committees can support. So, I mean, I just open to questions if you have any questions on different conversations and anything you'd like to know more of.
One question I will ask specifically as it relates to digital signs. I know that you were doing, as part of your listening campaign, sort of a subtle survey of various businesses regarding their feelings on digital signs, and were they a high priority for them, or were they a low priority or a medium priority? What did you find in the research you've done so far?
So good question. The way that I summarized it was that digital signage, it's not a top concern for many businesses, as in they don't rank digital signs as their number one thing. They're not like, we need a digital sign to survive. But it's a very polarizing topic. And, you know, some residents and civic groups very strongly oppose it, as you all know. And they're worried about everything that we know, that it could erode Wildwood's unique charm. But others say that visibility is really essential for small businesses trying to compete. So the way that I approached this was I had it more of a conversational. I didn't roll out a survey, for example, because I'm really thoughtful about results that are skewed. And I wanted to approach it first as like a very randomized conversation. So I had random conversations with businesses in a really casual way. I'll give you some examples of some of the feedback that I'm hearing. So Three French Hens, for example, says that businesses around the Wildwood pub are hard to see from the road. And Wildwood, the city is not allowing them to put signs out by the road, so that's been an issue. And that it would be nice to have signage on the road as well, since new fencing blocks their building. She says anyone not in town center feels that way, and it's the biggest gripe that she hears. Pasiglia, for example, they said that with a location on the outskirts of town, it would be advantageous for them from the standpoint of more visibility to communicate their hours, sales, and not deter from the aesthetics or safety in their immediate area. And so, you know, it's definitely, it's a polarizing topic. People feel strongly about it. Mattress dogs, for example, you know, I have the conversation with them. It's like, if it's allowed, businesses would probably embrace it. If it's not allowed, they're gonna do what their neighbors do, you know, so. But collectively, businesses do say that they need more visibility and get that signage is a concern and, you know, it's a challenge for their business.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Paula?
Yeah, so French Hands wants a sign up near Old Manchester then?
Yes, let me
I
look
mean, you pretty much
exactly.
see it when you drive by.
Yeah,
I
they.
think you said
Wildwood Pub.
Wildwood Pub.
Yeah, French
Yes.
Hen said the Wildwood
It's
Pub
back.
even want signs.
Wildwood
Yes.
Pub.
Well, I thought you
So-
said something about French Hands.
So the businesses, so these are like, Three French Hens has told me that the businesses around Wildwood Pub are hard to see from the road. And so like the conversations that I've had are with businesses directly and then their awareness about their conversations with other businesses in the area too.
Yeah, but don't we have a sign up there or have a marquee?
It says Wildwood Square.
Yeah,
Yeah. They're wanting something that's more, and this discussion's taken place before it was brought up at the Economic Development Forum. They're wanting a monument sign that in theory could be accommodated. We have our director of planning that could discuss that aspect, but they're wanting something that's more specific to saying, hey, Wildwood Square, what's in Wildwood Square? And then having their logos on it, but it would be closer to the right of way versus what it is.
and what's the status on that? We had a discussion with them. Are they pursuing it?
Back in January at the Wildwood Business Forum, Ms. Jones brought up that particular issue. There are several that agreed with her. I explained to them, submit something, or if you're not sure what you can or can't do, let's meet. I've not heard from anybody.
Okay. Cause we told them we'd work on them getting a larger monument there.
We can
I
figure
mean, I wanna
something.
do what we can for the businesses, you know. So I'm.
I'll give you another example. I thought this one was interesting. Puppingham Palace said that they don't care what the signage looks like. Any exposure on Manchester is what they're wanting since they're tucked away off of a main road.
Yeah. That's-
They've got signage on Manchester though.
They want to.
No.
Oh, they want
Possible
100.
for you to follow up with, what's the lady's name?
Laura Jones.
To follow up with her and just say, hey, wanted to follow up on your concern. When might we expect something that you are proposing for that location?
After we left the business forum, I fully expected to hear something from them pretty quickly. I'll be glad to call her.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Farmer.
So up at Village Plaza, which is at the top of West Glen Farms, they cleared out a whole bunch of vegetation to help them get more eyeballs and.
Is that on that hill?
uh,
Okay, yeah.
and business.
By artists.
My assumption is that didn't do anything. Because while I appreciate what the business owners are saying, Puppingham Palace has been there for like 6 years. So there's nobody driving down 100 that is going to see a sign and go, oh, there's a Puppingham Palace over here. Let me go check that out. I think that it's really super important. My suggestion would be, it's super important in the types of questions that we're asking. Because like monument signs are super expensive to put in, whether we approve them or not. So, and they fall apart quickly, like the one out in front of Town Center here, where it's all crackly and looks like shit, pardon my French. And there's nothing we can do about it. So, like, I would suggest that a lot of times if you ask people, do you want a bigger sign? Their answer is going to be yes, without understanding the cost or any of the other pieces for it. I would also say any of those people up at Wildwood Pub or anywhere else, like, I am not a person that's gonna open up a store necessarily, but like, if I've done the research, I'm gonna figure out about, can I put a sign here? Is this a problem? These are all things that happen like before you open the doors, not afterwards. And I would just say, like, you know, I'm all for getting the feedback from our business community, and I want to help them as much as we can, but I think we have to be careful and realistic, because the care, R.L. Jones are great local owners, they're doing great things. That is not the case with a lot of these plazas. So the second we start putting stuff up, it does not stop. It will go everywhere.
That's true, yeah. And I agree with you about the way that we phrase the question. So I think that, you know, to move forward, this could be a more formal process as a survey if we want that information, or we just take this with a grain of salt. But, you know, like you had mentioned, a scale, a 5-point scale. How strongly do you feel about this? Like, we could get into much more detail with these questions, but this was the, you know, initial starting
Yeah.
point.
I mean, I just know, like, driving, you know, I've sent this stuff to Scott, like, if you drive down, you know, Clayton Road between Clarkston and 141 at night, all the digital, all the churches, all the stuff, I mean, it looks like it's not great. If you drive down Manchester going through Ellisville, all those things, everything is lit up like a pinball machine. It's just not, it's not what draws people in. People come because people go to Three French Hens because they want to go to Three French Hens. You could put the biggest Three French Hen sign up in the world. If somebody doesn't know what Three French Hens is, it's not like they're gonna stop by to figure it out.
It's an advertising issue, how they advertise their business.
Right.
Instead of signs, you gotta let them know,
Yeah, but advertising, like, we don't have, the people that are driving around our city live here. They're not just random people. So people know, I mean, we'd had a conversation about Larry's. Larry's has been there for like 70 years. You didn't even know what it was. They don't have a sign. It's packed every time we go in there.
Same 25 guys.
Yeah, and that's what makes a business run. You don't need new customers if you got good ones that keep coming back.
And a lot of these businesses, you know, Three French Hens did mention that even people in Wildwood don't know about Three French Hens. They,
she
yeah,
does a
like,
good job advertising though. She does
Yeah.
TV advertising.
Yeah, yeah.
right, meta ads,
Yeah.
targeted meta ads, and that's like the future of advertising anyway. Which, and that more and more businesses are saying they're spending more of their money on digital ads.
Good way to do it.
That's the future.
Great.
So how do we bring businesses into Wildwood? I don't know.
That's why you're here.
Well, so I have I don't know if this is the right time, but I do have a general
ahead.
question. So, this is just speaking for me. I've been on the council for a while. Katie has always been on this committee. I have a general concept of what we're supposed to be doing here, but I actually don't have any idea in real terms what we are supposed to be doing. That makes sense?
So I think the name economic development says it all.
Well, right,
We're
but
supposed to bring new businesses in here.
we don't
support the
recruit
existing-
them.
Pardon?
We don't recruit new businesses.
I mean, I think it's to facilitate their, you know, I mean, either function here or improve the, you know, paradigm in which we operate here, by which it becomes more attractive for them to be here.
But like, do we, like, I'm just thinking about Town Center, for example. That's our primary business place. What kind of businesses are we supposed to have in Town Center?
Mostly it's, you're wanting to attract retail and office, but there's developers aren't building that these days.
Yeah, I'm not even talking about building new buildings. I'm talking about like what, like, we've got a couple big restaurant chunks, right? And I think Indian food is great. We're gonna have two Indian food places. We now are gonna have two mattress stores. I would suggest we go get like a Blimpies or a Fire Subs, and now we get a competitor for Subway. Like, I'm not kidding. I am asking what we're supposed to have in town center. Because I have been on the city council for 6 years and I don't know.
Well, I think we can have that. I think we can have this in the master plan discussion, but I would say that when we ask our residents what they're wanting retail, most say we have enough office space that's being used. I mean, that
We
makes
have more
sense.
than enough office
Yep,
space.
right. They're saying they want retail, they want dining options, they want fast food.
Right, fast food.
Fast food, and they
But
also.
like
want-
retail, what does that actually mean? I mean, retail is,
Well, it can mean a plethora of different things, but as of, you can see
I mean, I know what it means. I'm
Yeah,
asking what do the
Shoe stores.
citizens ask?
My wife wants a shoe
yeah,
store.
shoe stores, you
We
can
got
have,
heels, that's shoes, right?
if they do sell.
So I think one of the conclusions we've come to here is based on the population density of the city, which everybody's familiar with. It's about 534 people per square mile
Mhm.
versus Baldwin, which is about 3,444 people per square mile. So it's very, very difficult to attract the location of a chain of
Sure.
Yeah, they look
any
at this
sort
as,
into
Nope.
the city.
Well, and it's incredible. I mean, I know, because I looked at where Mattress Dogs was. It's insanely expensive.
Yes, but where we do seem to be successful is what I will call the one-offs, unique and different businesses. Magnolia Soap and Bath, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a unique business. Good News Brewing Company, that's a unique style of
Great.
business. Everybody that we tend to attract here seems to be a unique and different business.
Mhm.
And many of them tend to be small and medium-sized businesses. First year they're in business, very difficult many times. They struggle with cash flow issues. We have something coming up a little bit later tonight that we can help them address that issue with. And so those are the types of businesses we're trying to draw in here right now. Unfortunately, we don't have the population density to be real selective with the types of businesses we can pull in here. So
Well, I'm not saying we
almost to
should
the-
turn any of them down. I'm just saying, like, I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, you know, whether it's like, I know when the Benedetto's guys were still there, and I talked to the guys when it was Slice or whatever it was before Mint Martini, Panica.
Oh, yeah.
Their big issue was they couldn't get their staff home
Right,
because the bus stopped running. So
and that was the same issue with Benedetto's.
that's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
like, to me, that's an issue that makes sense that we can, as a city or whatever, we can try to attack if that's what we're gonna do. I'm just trying to figure out, like, I appreciate the reports and all these things, but like, we're not actively out recruiting businesses, right?
Well, we do reach out, but I think that a lot of it's business retention. It's making sure that you touch base with these businesses and highlight these activities that are taking place, the events that they're holding, but also the.
Scott?
other-
Oh, I'm sorry, Deb. Go ahead.
You know, what I hear from residents is they want something in town center, family oriented. If you look at these one-off little boutiques, I mean, how much traffic do you think they're really gonna get? We need some more family oriented retail and restaurants to eat. I mean, some of the ones we have are very expensive, and if you're a young family starting out, you know, you can't afford to go there. Like I was saying during one of the master plan update committees, if we had something in there like a recreation center, then we're going to pull people in because they're going to want to go to the recreation center, especially the teens and the tweens. They have nowhere to go. But then if you would add some other retail, like, I don't know, some whatever kids are eating these days, whether it's a hamburger joint or whatever that's not so expensive, I think you would get more people in. And then my other comment is, we're in a unique situation. I mean, do we think this is really viable? Because we're right next to Eureka, Ellisville, Baldwin, Chesterfield, and I know a lot of residents who live in areas that are close to those other municipalities. They go to those other municipalities to shop. They don't come to Wildwood. Stop and think about it. How many times a day or a week are you in town center? How many times do you go? Stop and think about that. So, and why don't you go? Or why do you go? Um, uh, we don't really have anything that draws families. I mean, well, we do. El Maguey, they draw families. But, we need something like, something that'll draw people to town center. The Village Green might do that somewhat. But I think if we had something like, like a rec center where you could do all different kinds of things in there. You could have meeting locations because I know people are struggling, like they can't use the schools anymore. So HOAs don't really have anywhere to go, or if some other organization wants to do a meeting, they have nowhere else to go. There could be activities there for the kids, or early childhood activities could be there. I mean, you have a wealth of potential clients to come to town center if you had the right things would attract families with preschoolers and kindergartners and first graders.
But we had that at one time. What was the name of that soccer place that wanted to build next to the fire station? It was a fantastic facility, a sports facility, and it got chased out of Wildwood when I was on council. The lighting was bad or something.
Was that gonna be like vet or something?
Yeah, it would have been a super thing to
That would have been neat.
bring into Wildwood.
Are we having a soccer field going in the Westerville Valley area?
Indoor
Sports facility.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, there's a huge sports thing going
we
on.
changed a lot of this stuff away years ago when I was on council. Target left, I spoke out and didn't get anywhere. And,
Cliff?
Okay, so we have lost and will continue to lose a lot of opportunities because of our drive-through policy. I've heard so many things we've lost over the years, and I hope that's gonna change in the master plan, because you think about, I don't know what the problem is with it. I don't know, but the average family, a lot of times doesn't want to pile their kids in and out of the car. They want to go somewhere and get through it, and we have a few of them that are in here in the town center already, and they seem to work fine. I just think if we're serious about this, we really got to change our minds about that.
I've heard that over and over again about the drive-through policy, that people have families and they have pets and they want convenience and they want a deli and they want a drive-through.
we got Culver's was coming and
Right.
years ago, the roof was blue and we said, you can't build here.
So I'll give you a specific example of why we need to have some drive-through options. Several years ago, I pulled into a Chick-fil-A, into the parking stall. A woman with 3 small kids pulled into the parking stall next to me. I got out of the car, she got out of the car. I'm walking into the restaurant, she's getting her kids out of the car. I walked into the restaurant, went into the restroom, washed my hands, ordered my food, sat down, ate my food, walked back out to my car just as she was beginning to come in across the parking lot to the restaurant. So young families with small kids need that drive-through. That's one way we can bring them into the city. Mr. Vunich.
Mr. Ottenberg, approximately 3 years ago, the Department of Planning initiated a proposal to add drive-throughs in the workplace district. It went to Planning and Zoning Commission, and at that time, Mayor Boland did not support it and convinced enough of the Planning and Zoning Commission members not to. When it arrived at City Council, it didn't even get a discussion because it came as a denial. So please understand, the Department of Planning hears the same things that you all hear, and it's tried. It's tried very hard to basically make Town Center a viable component of our community. But when things come to you and 3 people stand up and say they don't like it, recognize that a lot of that's been through a whole lot of discussions before it got to you. And a lot of the things that those 3 people might say have been addressed. I urge you to count on your professional staff, people like Tom, Paula, Public Works Planning, and your Planning and Zoning Commission. And they'll get you a good answer. And the answer oftentimes will help Town Center.
So what I will do on that particular topic is I'll have a conversation with you tomorrow and we'll see, since we have new regime, I shouldn't say regime, since we have new people at the top of city government, it's time to resurrect this issue again and take another look at it.
In this case, could we, with that being said, since we're gonna kind of jump into master plan, I think that could be something we definitely.
Does it have to be in the master plan?
No. It can get started sooner than that, but I think it could be something that under the economic development goal could be a goal and then it will be pushed. Then it's something that everyone will kind of agree.
Can't you just do this like next month?
Yes, it's nothing
Okay.
against them, yeah.
I don't know, I don't need to do this master plan, we can. I'm
I
just
would like
saying,
to add it there too, so it's solidified for the next 10
Sure,
years.
yeah.
That's the main thing, cause
Good
it can
point.
be reversed. That's,
And I just hope our current planning and zoning doesn't have their head in the clouds for a lot of these things, you know?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that worked several years ago.
Hmm.
We were told we could never do anything to change the sign code.
Oh,
And we
okay.
heard at an economic forum concerns about our temporary sign code. So Tom did a lot of research on surrounding municipalities, what they were doing with their temporary sign code. We came up with some suggested changes. And before that legislation made it to city council, I went and testified in front of the planning and zoning committee and explained to them what we were doing, why we wanted to do it, how it would benefit our local businesses, and they got behind it and approved it.
Oh, okay.
So
Well,
we can make things like this work.
I think we're in a new regime. I think the mayor would support things that previous mayors wouldn't support, you
Yeah.
know?
You got limited opportunity now because very few commercial properties exist now.
Right.
We're so small now.
Well, there's room, there's plenty of room to
We
build
were on that
commercial.
3 years ago.
Pardon?
We were on the council 3 years ago. I don't remember a drive-through thing. I'm not doubting you, Joe. I'm just saying. I
you have
don't
to
even-
receive
No.
file.
That's-
Remember, Mr. Farmer, if a report comes out of Planning and Zoning Commission as a denial, it's a receive and file. Does not
Right.
go to public hearing.
Wow.
And you know, receive and files are always done at the end of a
Yeah,
work session.
I get that.
So
I would suggest, I don't think it would take much work or effort at all. Take whatever you put out there the last time and run it through this time. And now, if we know that, if it comes back as a denial, we've dealt with that too. We get the right to
Exactly.
look at it. We can then do that.
Mm-hmm.
But it still should be new P and Z people for the most part, right?
the drive-in really came into focus during COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't go into restaurants. Those that had drive-throughs survived, those that didn't struggled.
I mean, I think to this day, fast food places don't even, I mean, that's a key point of any design and location they look at. If it doesn't have,
Item.
yeah. I mean, if they can't do that, see ya. I mean,
We can establish it. I know one of the big concerns is that when you say fast food, everybody thinks of, I'll just pick McDonald's, and they think of trash cans and garbage overflowing into the parking lot, that sort of thing. So that's the one issue we have with the general public.
Well, COVID took down Llewellyn's, I guess, right? Pretty much, I
That
think.
whole, they sold their everything, that family sold everything they had. I think they were just retired.
Oh, well, they're still.
I think they sold the name, like
Oh,
they sold.
Well, I
'cause they
mean, I
pulled
thought
that-
COVID shut that down pretty bad.
They still have a restaurant in Webster Groves, but all the
There's
others,
one in Seward, maybe.
Well,
still.
maybe, I don't.
Talk Popeyes had to come into line.
Well, I will say, I,
Chick-fil-A.
These new management, that's all I'm telling you.
the guy that owns the Ellisville Chick-fil-A lives right over there.
He lives on Center.
Yeah.
There's a long line at that Chick-fil-A.
I will say about the trash thing, you know, just so happened that when we had our concert on Friday, I was at El Magay or whatever it is. And, you know, it's busy, there's a lot of people, there was a lot of trash outside and there was a guy that walked in and was like, what is this? I thought we were in Wildwood. Why is all this garbage here? And he made a point of saying it 3 or 4 times. I mean, he didn't know who I was or he was just saying it. But I do think, you know, we need to communicate that like, you know, should drive-throughs be in limited degree allowed? I mean, it's not like we're gonna just open the floodgates or something. It also takes people to come. Like, we just need to put some stuff in there that's like, this is the expectation. We're having that with our friends up at the Bros thing. I mean, I know those guys are struggling on a lot of fronts, but like, you gotta keep up with the build, you know, it's not helping you if your building looks like that.
You know, we can set the design standards for what the drive-through facility looks like. and,
Sure.
You know,
But where would they go? 109 there, probably?
There's that one.
There's a couple
There's
parcels up
enough
there
for
that-
two.
Yeah, well, that'd be
There's some
great.
over here, put one in across the street.
Where?
There's 2 parcels across the street, right? That's fun.
From here.
There's actually 4 parcels on Route 109 that are, in my opinion, almost perfect for.
And one more thing I would like to mention also about emerging industry opportunities. So looking at St. Louis and the industries that are growing in St. Louis. So advanced manufacturing, bioscience and health, digital transformation, financial and business services, mobility and transportation, and agricultural technology. We have so much open space. We have so many, so much space. And one thing that I was even thinking of was Richmond, Virginia. They've really harnessed being a data center. They have huge data centers. You know, really talking more and aligning on vision. And what industries we see as growing that we see Wildwood supporting, which would bring in people. We talk all the time about how Wildwood, like so many other suburbs, decreases in population during the day because all of the workers are going elsewhere. And then increases again at night. But bringing more industry here would support economic development by bringing just people here. And so I think it's just, I think spending time aligning on vision and talking more about what industries we see those being and how Wildwood could support that. Helpful.
In the valley.
I have somewhat related question. Mr. Vunich, we keep hearing all the time that it's really difficult to get a business started in Wildwood. You know, the permits are too slow, the guidelines are too difficult and too high expectation. So, Paul, I don't know if you ran across anything like that. I mean, compared to other cities, is that true? Or is that just, and how is it true? What's the difference?
Oh, so you're asking reality versus perception, right?
Yes.
Is that your question?
Yes.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. There is a perception and, the quote really is, and I have that here. Okay, so many business owners, they describe Wildwood as a difficult environment to open or sustain a business due to high costs, lengthy reviews, and rigid regulations. And I think it is a mix. I don't know about the reality of that, quite frankly. So that's what businesses are telling me, but there's definitely is the perception. And I think from a communications perspective, we're really trying to combat that. For example, Good News Brewery posted publicly on Facebook that they really enjoyed working with the city of Wildwood and that it was a really great process and they enjoyed it. And so we shared that message and amplified that message because I think there is the challenge of changing perception. And that's 50% of the problem.
And how does that relate to other municipalities?
Like Baldwin, Ellisville, yeah. So what I've heard is that, there's less, the process is faster in some other, and I haven't dug into the reality of that, but that the businesses are telling me, the process may be faster in some of those places. And then the signage requirement isn't as strict, but like I said, the signage thing isn't a number one thing. It's just something that is on their minds. But yeah, I think just speed and efficiency. And the big thing is also foot traffic. That's the other draw, some of the other places.
Mr. Vunich, will you chime in on that?
Pardon, ma'am?
I said, will you chime in on that topic?
Well, all I can tell you is that there's 2 staff people that handle 90% of the permits. So some days it takes a little longer than others. And we enforce the code as approved by city council. So if you want to make it a less regulated environment, all you need to do is tell us how you'd like to do that, and we'll do our best to make that happen.
Personally, I don't want to make a less regulated environment. I'm just curious based on comments and how it compares to other cities. If they get the same comment or, how different is their process versus our process?
The chair, just real briefly. Obviously, there's some key characteristics we look at. Most municipalities around us don't have architectural review. You can see it because on a single stretch of Manchester Road, you can have 5 different looking buildings next to each other. There's no consistency. They're up, they're down, they're white, they're black, they're this, they're that. Secondly, we manage signage because it's a component of the architecture and the streetscape. Our signage generally provides visibility. Most of our businesses don't have direct frontage onto a major arterial. And that's where your visibility comes from. And then lastly, just from the perspective of the department, we have regulations that were based on new urbanism. So it was all about kind of getting people off the main arterials onto the streets and out of their cars and create a walking environment. In 2018, I should say, when 2018, when we updated the town center plan, that was the first question the department asked everybody at the volunteers. Do we really want to do new urbanism anymore? Because, you know, it gets a little old for the department. I guess I'll say it. All we hear is we're the problem. Our signs are too regulated. This is too much. We're too slow. We're too this, we're too that. We have town center, we have new urbanism, architectural guidelines, design standards, this, that, and the other, and then throw in all the utilities and MSD, nothing moves fast. And I can tell you, it's not much different anywhere else because they all have to go through these levels of review with outside agencies, utilities, sewer districts, fire districts. I can tell you a story about 3 French hens in the fire district if you really want to hear a whopper. So,
I think everybody recognizes that, you know, your team does a great job and you can only do what we ask you to do. So,
and if you want us to do something different, let's look at the regulations, change the regulations, and we'll be glad to implement them. There are some things we need to change, I think, and we're talking about signs a little later. There's some things there I'll be the first to admit, we listened to an expert. I don't think the expert understood what we were dealing with here at times, and so I think we can make it better.
And I make one more difference.
Well, do you make recommendations, Joe? Put it in writing for everybody? I mean, just for our purpose to get started. I mean, that might be something.
Michael,
All
back
would be
to the
interested.
drive-through issue, Mr. Farmer, it was 2018. Time flies when you're having fun.
yeah.
So it was about 6 years ago. Well, drive-throughs,
We want to move forward. Wow, I don't know how we do it.
Cliff, did you have,
No.
Joe?
I'm good.
Yeah, Joe, I was just gonna ask, because I mean, I was thinking about this, I had a conversation with Teresa Clark about the environmental stuff for the master plan. You know, I appreciate and understand and respect what the master plan is, and I think it's great. But my sort of general concern, because we've dealt with this on admin and PW, is when you have citizen volunteers that are trying to do their best, but they don't understand the machinations of how all this actually works. And then we're sort of stuck in a way with what seems like it should be a generally good idea, but in the application, it actually isn't. I'm just wondering if we need to, since it's going on right now, like, I am concerned that people don't understand on the master plan thing, and I've talked to the couple of the council members on there, that like, you know, the drive-through thing. A handful of people on there that are just opposed to drive-throughs in general or don't get how it works, that now that comes out. And then we as council members are often told like, well, it's in this thing, we can't do anything about it. So what I'm hoping from a city we can do, and I think, you know, I've had enough conversations with Mayor Garetano, I think that this is a thing that is a real thing. You know, he wants to look at like, where are the problems coming from in general? So if it's the signage or whatever it is, and let's have like an actual conversation about how to fix it, because you guys are constantly stuck in a place where your hands are tied. There's not a whole lot you can do. And then I'm with you, like I look at Ellisville, they put a new, they got 7 coffee shops in the city. I don't know how much people are drinking in Ellisville. Apparently it's a lot. But you know, any one of those could make their way out here, I suppose, if we wanted them to. So I just think that we're kind of constantly stuck in this place of like, and I mean, I felt this for a couple of years. We ping pong back and forth between E and Z, and then it goes to this committee, and then it comes over here, and then and you have enough of council members going like, put this on the agenda next month and we will vote on it. And we can't, it seems, I guess, I don't know. And so we're stuck. And then you guys are stuck in this cycle of like, we're stuck too. So now all of us are spinning our wheels in the mud.
Well, and again, we'll be glad to expedite whatever you would like. Anything that amends the zoning ordinance has to first go to the Planning and Zoning Commission. But we can make that process work. It was just like years ago, if there was a denial out of the Planning and Zoning Commission, the prevailing thought was it still goes to public hearing. Give that person a day in front of city council, basically make their pitch. Why should a denial out of the commission, a recommending body, not even get an opportunity to be discussed at city council as a receive and file? But that's what we do. So
Why? I guess that's my point. Why do we do that?
Mayor Boland,
Okay, so Jim's great. He's not around anymore.
Yep.
So my question would be, is there something, I don't know if it comes out of here or somewhere else, where we can just say, this is the process. It is not based on someone's political philosophy. It just is. And if the mayor at the time doesn't like it, great.
great, yeah. But what I would say is, I think everybody deserves their day in front of city council, regardless if the proposal is supported or not supported by Planning and Zoning Commission, because you are the legislative body. You've been elected by the residents to make those decisions, not the commission.
So what is the proper, and I don't know, Tom, if this is you or, sorry, I'm monopolizing.
right.
How do we ensure that that happens? You have been a part of this city since its beginning. Everyone that I know here defaults in one way or the other to your expertise on this. So if you are the guy saying, just let people in front of city council to have a conversation. I am not a guy that loves meetings, but I'm happy to listen to the conversation. So how do we codify that to make sure it occurs?
As it is practiced, the mayor sets the agenda. And that's why when the mayor asked that denials from the commission go to receive and file, that's where they went. Mayor Garitano can basically reverse that and say, I want everything to have a public hearing that comes out of the commission that is zoning or rezoning related. I mean, it's really about who sets the agenda. And that's not the council, it's not the Department of Planning, it's not the city administrator, it's not the economic development manager, it's not the city clerk, it's the mayor.
Well, so, okay, and this, I'm sorry. We started figuring this out in admin and PW. I haven't spoken to the mayor about this. I don't know if he would be receptive or not. But in admin and PW, we're putting together a thing, because as chairman, we get to figure out what we're gonna talk about in our meetings. But in admin and PW, if there is somebody that wants to talk about something, and for whatever reason, I'm the chair of that at the moment, I don't want to. Great, but if that person gets two other council members from different wards to say, we would like to have this conversation, then it goes on to the next agenda. The conversation can go one way or the other, but we're gonna have it. So I'm just wondering, and I'm not trying to strip away what the mayor is supposed to do and all of that kind of stuff, but to me, there's a difference between the process of how something should flow through, and I am not talking about this because I don't want to. That is up to the mayor, just like it would be up to, Scott as the chair, or me, or I guess Mike if he's the whatever. We can sit on something for a little bit, but for something like this, that seems like really patently unfair, just on a whim.
And the only reason, I wouldn't advocate for anything other than zonings coming out of the Planning and Zoning Commission. And the reason I advocate for it is they probably spent $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 to get to that point. Because we require an application fee and we require a preliminary development plan. Preliminary development plans developed by a surveyor and an engineer, and nothing's inexpensive. So that's why I say, just in terms of investing in the community, there are certain people that spend a lot of money and then ultimately their proposal ends with a recommendation by an administrative body, not a legislative body.
And because of this process, word's out there that you can't even get past planning and zoning now, right? So it's the perception again that Wildwood is hard to deal with, and that's something I never knew about. And boy, that's enlightening. Yeah, so I think,
Sorry.
but I think Sounds like that'd be an easy change too.
Big expense.
Yeah, can we change? I mean, Joe, can we flip that around? That it has to come to council first, and then if council passes it, it goes to planning and zoning?
State statute reverses it, so we'll follow state statute, but if you're inclined, you could talk to Mayor Garritano.
Sounds like a job for the pro temp mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Farmer, let's get busy on that.
I'll see what I can do.
Joe, it's been delegated.
Yeah,
Well, it
okay.
sounds like you're already having some of those conversations already.
Yes, yeah, I think, you know, and we talked about this with our bar thing, like there is a level when you're selecting a chair to a committee, there is a level of power, I guess, that like, I'm not sure that everybody understands what that actually means. Same thing, like, I'm not sure that a lot of the citizens in our city understand that, you know, the mayor's primary function is setting the agenda and managing the agenda for the city council meeting. I mean, he does a lot of other stuff too, but that's the real part of the job. And so I just think, you know, blocking something like that, or even making it, maybe it's as simple as making it a more clear statement in the agenda that says if, you know, this is one of, I don't know how we would say that, but this is one of those items perhaps somebody on the city council would like to take a look at.
But that's an exception. Bolin was the exception, wasn't he? Maybe Wild was different, but, yeah, he shouldn't be blocking anything without us knowing.
It's not blocking, but we can definitely.
Or
have
denying.
delegates.
Look, I'm not promising anything. I will have a conversation
We
with the
should know
mayor.
the opportunity that exists.
But I also know now, I mean, I know now, and you know, this is one of these things that we're gonna run into a lot, whether it's in our committees or in our council, you know, the term limit thing is a real thing. So, you know, I've been doing this for 6 years and I technically have 3 left because I got appointed or whatever. But it's taken me a long time to actually figure out how to do this. And so a lot of these people, you know,
Right.
Deb's been around for a very long time. Katie's been around for a long time. Those people that have done this are gonna go away. So we have to find a way to help people to understand that how this should work. I mean, that's maybe an education thing on our side. But I'll talk to the mayor. We'll see what we can do. He seems like a pretty receptive guy.
Maybe we should,
Joe's.
maybe we should look at term limits too.
Yeah, but I don't think we can do that because that was a
The
vote.
charter. thing.
Although I
That was
guess
a harder thing.
the current
Going for
Missouri
the
legislator
voters.
doesn't seem to care what people vote on, so maybe we shouldn't have to care about it either. We can overturn that.
I got a question.
But it is a big problem.
Yeah, it
Every
is.
2 years, the council almost completely turns over. Not almost, but like, was there 4 new people this year?
All right.
5?
Every year, yeah.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity for half of it every year.
Right.
That's the other thing.
Jim, you wanted to say something?
Well, does the city try to advertise businesses to come to Wildwood? Do we do anything as a city to get our name out there?
Well, we have a page on our website, but as we're talking, I'm thinking of some ideas about how we can change perception. Because we have a page of how to attract, what businesses should know. But it's definitely something we can share more widely and frequently on social media, on newsletters. You know, we could have a kind of communications campaign to change that perception.
Come to business friendly Wildwood.
Yeah,
You know,
something like that.
Well, a couple of years ago, we actually explored that. Remember, Tom, we were taking a look at a.
And we have, that's the page she's referring to, is that's open on there, and we hope that individuals like go on there and read it, and it's really, I think, and this is a discussion we can have today, is what kind of businesses do we want to set our focus on and really do the efforts to reach out to, because I will say, when you look at retail or these quick dining restaurants, you could probably get them on 109, but if you start thinking like, let's put them over here, I mean, the traffic isn't there, they need about 45,000
Cars
cars per day.
Yeah.
And or they're gonna look at, they're gonna go down the street and say, oh, if I go east of Clarkson, I've got that traffic, and they do. So that is a big, I do think Mr. Boone said, the spaces we have on 109 are most likely our best bet to get the drive-throughs that people are wanting. But I think when it comes to what kind of businesses we truly want. You ask a good question, what can we really get is the question.
Well, it's that, and I mean, I just know, cause I went through it, I'm sorry, Scotty.
No, go ahead.
I went through it when we looked at where Mattress Dogs was, when it was the previous owner at my old company. And the previous owner, it was a REIT and they were based in Oregon. And all they had was a spreadsheet in front of them and they looked at the, you know, median income in the area, which is very high. And they went, well, your rent based on this is very high. And I had to go, I don't think you understand what this is. There's not like, this is not a major intersection. There's not a lot of traffic. This is a different kind of a thing. And so I've wondered for a while, like, you know, whether it's here or up by Schnucks, like we as a city are somewhat dependent on whatever the real estate people are telling us is supposed to go somewhere. And having been in real estate for a really long time, I can offer this suggestion. They don't care. They want whatever is going to go in there. So depending on them for an accurate assessment of what we actually need, or what is not even what we need, what is realistic. You know, we brought this up when we talked about N38 and the fact that like, this is maybe 200 people. Is that a real impact? Is it become an additional one if it's 400 more people at the apartment building? Like, I have no idea how many people are supposed to come here to make a legitimate impact on any business. Certainly, it makes sense to go, well, some people is better than none people, but that's not a particularly scientific way of thinking about this. So I don't know if there is a group, or I'm not, you know, I've got my own reservations on some of our consultant stuff we're doing, but like, this to me seems like something from a committee that it should be like, let's figure, like, have somebody that knows what they're doing, tell us what we can do here. Not what we want to do, but like legitimately what is possible. Because I mean, we have turned down a lot of businesses. We have some weird rules. So we are not starting from a great spot. However, we do have very high net worth individuals. You know, if you drive down parts of, you know, that little section in, what is it, in Town and Country that's on Clayton Road by Principia. I went in there, I looked at opening an office in there. That place was super expensive. It is jam-packed with people now. So it can be done if we're doing it right and if we're going after the right people. I mean, I just think we don't know. I mean, I'm even looking at the stuff on our website, like, we don't know. We count on ND Desco or whatever it is, and, you know, we have a great partner now in RL Jones because they live here. They understand what it is. The rest of these people don't. So they are dependent on math. So the communication you might need to be doing is saying, let me explain why this shouldn't cost $8,000 a month. Because that's a lot of whatever anybody is selling.
Mattresses.
It's a lot of mattresses.
What is like what is a normal space around here, 4,000 to 5,000 square foot?
No, I mean, these are, so where Mattress Dogs is, I think that's like 2,500 square feet.
Okay,
And with the previous owners, I have no idea what they're paying now. I'm not saying any of that, but I know that was gonna cost me $8,000 a month, which is insane.
oh yeah,
That's almost as much as my 20,000 square foot office in downtown Clayton.
yeah, I have a 15,000 square foot manufacturing facility in Minneapolis and I pay 10,000 a month.
Yeah, so I mean, it is outrageously expensive.
Yeah, that's crazy, wow.
And there is no amount of science that we can fix to fix that.
That's extremely
Yeah.
expensive.
So it's just what, supply and demand? I mean, the cost is whatever someone's willing to pay for it,
Well,
paid for. So
it's
someone is willing to pay for that.
Well, but they weren't. And so because it is in a REIT, or was, it's a write-off. They don't care if nobody's in it. Or in some of these cases, like Botanica had like that guy signed like a 12-year lease.
Oh,
So when it went under, they're still getting paid. They don't care if something is in there.
Yeah.
They get paid. I think Benedetto's is the same kind of a deal, right?
Yeah, that one, that one was not. That, they had a clean, and that
was
January
the
when they
end,
closed,
right?
that was
Waited
the
till
end. They,
expired.
yep. they
So I
actually-
just
but
think
they were
like from
making
a
money.
process
I wanna make clear
standpoint,
that
maybe
they were doing
that's-
really well.
yeah.
The stuff we can fix, Scott, I don't know. But I mean, that to me is the stuff I feel like we can impact versus like.
Well, I think another.
Mayor has always shown a strong interest in promoting the fact that we become sort of a health and wellness.
Sure.
center with all the various health and wellness related businesses that we've got. And that should be attractive to a lot of people, especially the demographic that's in this city.
Yeah.
Since it tends to be a somewhat older population than the county in general.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, we can do an inventory, but I mean, I'm just going off the top of my head, there's a lot of dentists, there's a lot of vets, there's a lot of
Optometrists.
optometrists, mattress stores, Indian food restaurants. Like, I mean, it's common for a business, a competitive business to go, well, it works for them, it'll work for me too. You know, we traded one ice cream store for a different ice cream store. So that's, I think, where we might wanna look.
You got karaoke in that.
It's fun, it's a great time, come on out and sing and have some ice cream.
Yeah, sing and eat ice cream.
That's a unique experience, so that was.
So that's an experience.
Yeah, like that's the thing that I think we really need to start looking at is you're not gonna be able to see even retailing. Retail just doesn't exist. The only retail that exists and thrives and opens today is usually selling some type of unique experience
Yep.
along with whatever unless they're a big chain. You know, you've got the
Right.
Chick-fil-A's of the world, but you know, you need something like Singers where you're. and
You
we'll
need
see
singers
how-
or like, you know, I even think about that, you know, my kid is up here every day and she is bored out of her mind. And they wind up in Walgreens or in Deerbergs. It's like, those people hate the kids, I get it. But you know, like, I don't know, you could, there's space here, put it in an escape room, put something
Yeah.
for people to do. That, I mean, that's what they need.
Activity.
Sports facility is something we need.
Yeah, but that's gone and now it's
Yeah.
down in Chesterfield.
But
Yeah, that would've been huge.
You know, the Target
That-
would
that
have been
would've
great.
been so-
Assuming we move forward with that,
Yeah.
all-inclusive
No.
playground, that will be a big thing
You guys
that's
gotta go
unique
home.
and different. Because there's
It
nothing else
is.
like that.
That'll
anywhere in
bring,
the
that'll
That'll
bring
bring
people. Yeah.
And,
right.
and with the parking garage right there, I mean, that will help drive people here, that it's an attraction, and then you need that initial attraction to allow and people aren't coming to, movies used to be the thing that you'd think.
I also think we could do a better job selling the school district. It's a top school district, low cost of living, you know, and so right now, we're now putting new information about Parents as Teachers program into new resident packets. But that's one step to really sell the fact that we have a top school district here and attract young families.
But when they get to the Village Green, there has to be something up here for them to do and access other than the Village Green.
The playground.
Yeah,
Oh,
but I
but then,
mean-
having supplementary things,
Right.
and I think that's where you tie in though, is, okay, what businesses, ecotourism, bike stores, but I know those are tough to carry the overhead, especially if you're in, the other thing is, something that we're not discussing is the SID. I mean, the property tax assessments, they are gonna be going away in 2026, but this whole area to the left of us here, going east, that kind of it's rough. That is an extremely high amount to pay each year, and that's what, they trickle that down. And you actually see that Wildwood Crossing, and the Deerbergs area, their rents are significantly lower per square foot because of it. But specifically this area here to the Walgreens, back to Starbucks, all the way to the retirement home to the left, it's a very small area, but they are, within our SID, and they pay large tax assessments each year. That'll stop in 2026.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just thinking about this, you know, Paul, you might wanna look at, like we talked about Larry's, that's a little bit of a unique thing. But like the Thai Bistro across the way there, that's been there for a very long time. And it might be worth having a conversation with some of those businesses to figure out what has allowed them to maintain their level of success, because that place is great, but like, it's never jam-packed with people, right?
There was a meeting with them, it was probably 2023, so it's been a minute, but they had mentioned that takeout was one of their big sellers. So
Yeah.
they literally, they almost organized the way they conduct their transactions. They're not really focused on having the 50. They accommodate it. If you wanna sit down at that restaurant, you can. But they made it so if you go to their website, they have a decent website.
I got it.
They-
The Panda place
Yep.
is the same kind of a
Yeah,
deal.
They focused in on trying to make it easy and almost like you would be picking up from a place where you have to go in like a typical Chinese place, something like that, but they actually integrated with Uber Eats and got them to come out here too.
But you know, like, yeah, what was it, Yen Ching was over by Schnucks forever, and then it wasn't, and it isn't anything anymore currently, and isn't probably gonna be for a while, I would assume. So I don't know, that might just be something to look at, I just think those are some things, I think we can fix that stuff quick.
So we were talking about bringing new businesses into the city, about trying to build the population in the city, but we still need to pull people from outside. I just did some quick seat of the pants calculations, taking a look at that report from the Realtors Association. They're projecting Wildwood's population to be flat down the road. So that means we have to bring people in from outside the city. So that's going to be one of our challenges going forward. That's where the all-inclusive playground
Yeah,
can
you
help
just
us.
need destinations.
Yeah, bring people in, and
They got buses coming to Larry's. I've seen them. They come at night. They
Well,
do, they
you know,
do,
like that.
they do pub crawls at Larry's now,
That,
can we get Larry to come in here and?
Yeah.
Mr. Larry.
Lunch and learn.
for real.
like the Three French Hen store brings people in
Yeah.
from all over the place. You need more places like that, you know. And I've always, you know, been here 27 years, and when we moved out here, we always thought that Old Manchester had the ability to be like Old Town St. Charles. And there's still a lot of opportunities to do that kind of stuff there, but you know, and that's, you know, how you talk about destinations, you know, how people love to go to Old Town St. Charles to walk, shop, eat, you know, and I just always, we always thought that Old Manchester, you know, and the Route 66 factor had that possibility.
And
too.
about St. Charles, I've heard a lot of people mention the buses, so during Christmas.
Yeah.
So shuttle buses taking people around, and so businesses were putting forth the idea about having a shuttle during the holidays to take people from one business to another, but bringing people and making a destination.
Well, and we talked about, we talk about the holiday thing, you know, trying to do like a hayride thing or something.
Yeah, that's a
Like-
little different though from like the overhead for having a bus that consistently is going in a circle around town center. That's I think what you're saying is like on the day of the event, or maybe throughout a little, like a
You
2-week
build out the
period.
event. I mean, we could do
Yeah.
it, same thing, like I know at one point we talked about doing a film festival in some capacity.
That'd be a good
You
idea.
know, I know that Cinema St. Louis, you know, they had a lot of their funding dropped, which is unfortunate, but you know, I would just suggest we're gonna have 2 Indian restaurants. We've got some new temples that are built, like a Bollywood festival would draw people here. And we could have a fun thing. You don't have to necessarily do that. We can just maybe help make it easier so it can be done.
Build a trolley into the street.
Yeah, let's dig up the
For
road.
the loop.
Right.
All right, great discussion here. We do have some additional business covered tonight, so why don't we move along here? I do have a couple of takeaways here. One is a transportation thing. Tom, I'm gonna call you tomorrow and talk to you about that, as well as the drive-through policy. Joe, if you've got additional thoughts on that, you know, feel free to give me a call. I think that's something we can address, like you suggested. P and Z, I'm very interested in how we can move some things forward without getting stalled out along the line. As well as industry recruitment. I think that's pretty important too. What types of industries do we want to recruit into the city? How can we do a better job of recruiting these industries? Do we need to go to an industry show somewhere? Or do we need to have some type of a pop-up on our website so that something pops up and says, if you are interested in Wildwood, you know, here's what you need to know. I don't know what it is.
Hey, question on that front too, Scott.
Yeah.
And does anyone have any maybe insider information? The Eaton facility over off Old State, that seems to be really big.
Mhm.
I mean, that would be, I mean, obviously maybe not a hose fit, but whatever, the industry really doesn't matter, but to Paul's point earlier, I mean, it would be interesting to have kind of some information on a place like that, because I envision that place having hundreds of employees.
I'm glad you brought that up, because
What
I'll be
place is
there.
that?
Eaton place.
I'll be
back
there
behind Clancy.
Right next to Clancy's, off of Old State.
It's been called, but
I worked there for 22 years. I was
Oh.
their vice president of sales, and I'm going back there on Wednesday of this week to go on a tour of their high-powered test lab that they've got in the back. So
Okay.
I'll be seeing a lot of people over there.
I'm just curious, because I mean, that like,
called previous.
They were called busmen. They were
Busman,
manufactured
busman.
fuses of all shapes and sizes.
Yeah,
So if you remember when you were a kid going down
Right.
into your grandparents' basement,
yeah.
the round fuses were
Right.
screwed into the fuse panel, they said BUSS on them. So the company's been around since about 1914.
Right.
But that's like the kind of place like, you know, no environmental real impact. I don't think you'd have people here with pitchforks, having a ride again, not having some place like that, but where it's a nice quiet campus, it's set back, there's hundreds of people that are there. It's just interesting. I don't know much about the place, other than that every time I go to Clancy's, I see 25 people from there from eating there, having a happy hour. And it just seems like a very vibrant place.
I'm having lunch there on Wednesday before I go over to the facility.
No, there you go.
All right. Moving along to the occupancy report. So the occupancy report was distributed by Mr. Lee. I asked him to distribute that, and it was primarily intended for the new committee members. And the occupancy report originated from an idea that Tom and I had several years ago. We were hearing doom and gloom predictions and observations from various people that Town Center was dead, Town Center was dying, Town Center was becoming a ghost town. And we said, what is really the occupancy rate of the available commercial space in Town Center? And that's what prompted us to come up with that survey. And once we completed that survey, you can read through it at your leisure, take a look at it at your leisure. But basically what we came up with was that our occupancy level was somewhat comparable to surrounding communities. Now, granted, when you start to dig down into the numbers, you find that two of the reasons the occupancy rate is what it is because of Schnucks and Deerbergs. They make up a big portion of that occupancy rate. And, but it's not quite the doom and gloom picture that we were hearing so often. And the reason I think people had that observation is that as you drive through Town Center with our businesses being concentrated here, if there were vacancies, they were pretty easy to spot. And I think that's how people were developing that observation. So that's a for information type of report. And the mayor came up with a suggestion that it's probably time for us to update that since we did that back in 2022. So we'll be doing it.
We had a software that was a lot easier to pull the data from, and then we'd go confirm it in real time. The reason why it's not updated, we would typically do that. The cost of that software went up significantly, so we did CoStar specific software. So we did cut that to save some monies, but we'll get out there and update. That said, can I call one thing out too, Chair?
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing too, I mean, it's a good comparison, but just looking at the total square footage that retail and office space in general makes up in Wildwood, you're sitting at 642,000 square feet. When you compare that to somewhere like Baldwin and Ellisville, I remember Manchester was comparable too. They're at 5,149,000. Well, that's Baldwin's. But they're in the millions, like multiple millions of square foot of retail, and there's other different reasons why. I mean, you could actually look at Chesterfield. Now that you actually see a major increase in their occupancy since they tore down the mall. So I mean, it sometimes the data can be skewed in that sense. But it goes to show, and I point that out because when a business goes out of business or leaves in Wildwood, the percentage of the pie is larger than it would in a traditional city because you don't have as many businesses around, or you also have that square footage is a larger percentage of our whole pie, especially when all of our commercial is concentrated in one single area and not necessarily spread out. It's got multiple retail plazas kind of spread throughout one small area. So just wanted to point that out as well.
Perfect, thank you. We move on to the next item, local economic area report. That was attached to the agenda. Some of you may have had a chance to take a look at it. Basically, one of the bottom line ideas that comes out of there, or observations, is that the population is expected to stay basically flat for the next few years. Excuse me. Also, it emphasizes the fact that this is a what we call it, a city in which a large percentage of the population leaves during the day. I think the population drops to somewhere around 24,000.
Most of that's probably kids.
Kids, people driving to work.
It actually has information about the commute time too, and it's just interesting to look at that data because the majority of the commute is about 30 to 35 minutes. So typically it's going, Clayton areas, it's taken a minute to get out, but it's showing, the majority of the population is above that 10-20 minute line. So shows that they're leaving Wildwood too. So that just a little bit of data that's not necessarily showed, but you can infer it.
Thank you. Move along to the update on the sign code review. And everybody received the document there. City Administrator Lee, did you have any comments that you wanted to make?
Yeah,
on
thank
sign
you,
code
Chair.
review?
I appreciate that. I just wanted to give a quick update. I know Mr. Vunish is with us tonight, so I do not wanna, he's here to provide a little bit of an update as well. That said, we are currently in the process of the review at Planning and Zoning. At Planning and Zoning Commission. There's two components, well, two and then plus a bunch of smaller components that I think we're looking at here. One is, does the city allow electronic message board signs? That's what's prompted this review, along with feedback from the business community, but that's question one I think we have to answer, and if so, we'll have more of a comprehensive report from our consultant to show how do you regulate it. And that's if this is something the city wants to do. That said, the other component is making some minor alterations. I think the two major ones are looking at our current sign regulations and doing two things. There's some other administrative processes that are included, but changing our current equation that is used to calculate a wall sign. Most of the time you get a wall sign with businesses, they're usually the easiest and cheapest to make, but still have an impact. So you see them make those most often. Right now, you have 1 square foot per linear foot of frontage that you have, and then you can have that doubled up to 50 square feet with a height total of 24 inches. If you're on an arterial, which the majority of town center is, but not all. So the question would be, hey, instead of that, we would change it to a percentage of the facade. So it would help accommodate. We've had some businesses reach out and say, hey, you know, my sign, I have maybe 3 letters, or I have 2 letters in my logo. And that has created issues for them because you can't stretch that out far enough to make it look natural and fit the facade correctly, while also making sure that the height isn't, the 24-inch height limit really does kind of limit.
Why don't you go ahead and give them the real world example on the percentage of the facade NPT that's on.
Yeah, NTP. So they're called Network Technology Partners, but they go by NTP. That's what their logo is. They didn't want to go off brand. When they did NTP and they followed the official code, it made it, they have a pretty large facade right next to Bank of Houston. They're right there. That did not fit the facade very well. Let's just say that. And then they did go to get it to the Board of Adjustment, but it was denied. So in that case, I mean, that kind of issue can take place. Some other ones, it fits in perfectly. I mean, Starbucks is obliged by our code and their sign actually looks more tasteful, I would say, in Wildwood than it does elsewhere. So I think there's a fine balance. But it would move what we currently are doing based off the 1 square foot of linear foot frontage to more of a percentage based model that most communities surrounding us utilize for calculating this. Then also the $500 sign escrow that is deposited when you when you put up a sign. The city would also be, that's what the department's recommending, that we take a look at that as well. I know Councilmember Farmer here also had some notes that was provided with the memo tonight, but also wanted to let Mr. Vunish, since he came down tonight for this specific cause, to provide some input.
Tom did a very good job of
Excellent.
of explaining it. I think the only other item I would mention is the temporary banners. We have modified the temporary banners at least 3 times, if not more. It's still not the right fit for what we're seeing when businesses submit. So actually, I think we're gonna change it kind of radically. At least that's gonna be the department's presentation to the Planning and Zoning Commission. And so from that perspective, I think we can improve that. And then finally, just one last thing on the sign escrow. Over the years, and we implemented this in 2007, we've collected 82 of them. For the most part, I should have returned all of those 82 because many of them were collected in the span of about 5 years from its implementation. And so from the department's perspective, it was an idea that came to us from our consultant, Albert Gibbs. But almost as soon as we started to try to implement it and use the $500 to address a sign, a business that had left the city, there was problems with liability going on somebody else's property and taking a sign down off their building. And so it just doesn't work. We're gonna recommend it be eliminated.
So a couple of questions regarding the sign escrow, and quite frankly, I'm in favor of eliminating it. Normally, what I do when I chair these committee meetings is I'll keep my ideas somewhat to myself and let the rest of the committee members chime in, but to me, eliminating the $500 sign escrow is a slam dunk. That's an easy one. We eliminate an unnecessary rule. We eliminate something that code enforcement has to get involved in, and we immediately improve the cash flow of our new businesses. I mean, everybody knows when you start a new business, cash flow is your number one concern for at least the first few months, if not the first year or so. So to me, that's a slam dunk. But the funds that have been previously collected, what is their status? Where are they now?
They're holding they're holding a special escrow account.
Okay,
And so if the $500 escrow fee is eliminated, we'll just return those.
all right, perfect. So we have about 5 items here. What I would like to suggest, and city administrator chime in here if you don't think this is the right procedure, is I would entertain a motion that we eliminate the sign escrow program immediately. Would somebody like to make that motion? Councilmember Farmer, seconded by Councilmember Preston.
So Joe's recommending that?
Yes.
Okay. I'm
All
for
right,
it.
so we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Approved. Thank you. We can move on to how flat wall sign size is calculated to better address larger facades in a more proportional manner. Mr. Vonich, what formula would we move to, or how would we do this?
So I'll explain, right now we use just the linear, the width of the tenant space, that linear number of feet. It works pretty well for small one-story buildings, but when you get to larger buildings, it just still takes into account the one dimension. What we are proposing is to go to height and width and a proportion of it. And the sweet spot has always seemed to be about 5%. And it'll correspond to what we allow in terms of a largest wall signs. And for the most part, it's a tried and true method. A lot of municipalities use it along with St. Louis County. And I think the sign's more proportion to larger facades.
Okay. So does everybody understand what Joe's suggesting? Is everybody comfortable with that? In that case, I would entertain a motion that
I have one quick question.
Go ahead.
So my only thought on that, Joe, is like there's some places like up at Village Plaza where like there's these weird like bends and stuff. And you know, as we've talked about, there isn't a lot of frontage anywhere. So like there's just a lot of weird angles. So I'm wondering if rather than a calculation, which I mean, we have to have a certain level of it. I'm wondering if there's some way to like look at these buildings and then I don't know, plug it into AI, have somebody look at this and go, this is what the sign should, like, this is the appropriate size for this building. Because like if you have, I'm not picking on anybody, like Buckingham Palace, I think has like 4 bays or whatever you want to call it, like, so their sign just kind of like keeps going, but it doesn't actually do anything for them because it's just spread out over all of this space. I'm just, my only worry would be, I don't want us to get in the same spot that we're in currently, just now with another metric to measure it by.
If I could, and certainly we'll look at that for you. The best example I can give is the new sign that Mattress Dogs has on the front of their store. The current interpretation of the dimension limited it to about, let's say, around 30 square feet. And when the rendering was provided of a 30 square foot sign on that 2-story facade, it looked minuscule. We did the calculation, and if you did 5%, it was like 52 or 53 square feet. And so that's what the Board of Adjustment eventually gave them. And I think it fits pretty well up there.
Yeah.
You know, is it aesthetically what you like? I don't know, but proportionally, it works well on the facade. So we'll look into that, and certainly we'll do some additional research, but I think You need to realize buildings are one dimension.
So would you feel more comfortable?
No, I'm fine moving forward. I mean, I want to get some stuff going, so like, I'm cool with that. I'm just saying, you know, in the long term, what I don't want to do is lock us into just a different version of what you got going now.
And as I say, this has been used for years and years. In fact, prior to 2006, that's what we used out here. And it worked pretty well, I thought.
So Joe, you feel that this type of calculation provides more flexibility to address larger facades and et cetera? Okay,
Very much so.
all right. So then I guess I would entertain a motion that we move forward with this, made by Councilmember Farmer, seconded by Councilmember Albers. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Abstentions, motion carries. Revised process for architectural review by the city's board to better reflect current trends. So, Mr. Vunich.
Many of our signs, particularly some like projection signs that Benedetto's on Main had, have to go to architectural review. Depending on the sequencing, it can be up to 2 months. The department would like to eliminate that. Signs are signs, generally speaking. The delay, I think, doesn't benefit the character of the sign, because the signs are on a recipe, so to speak. There's a prescribed height, there's a prescribed sign size, and then we address lighting. So I just don't see it as an integral part to ensure a sign is appropriate.
And I would say the Department of Planning would be just as sensitive to how appropriate a sign is for this city as anyone else.
I'd like to think so. There are people in the Department of Planning that actually have good taste, but and it's not me. So what I can tell you is, there's all kinds of pattern books that we can look at to make sure that if we're seeing a sign that looks a little unusual, we can figure it out.
All right. Mr. Farmer.
I'll make the motion. I just had a quick question. So if somebody wanted to do like the Benedetto sign, the way it's kind of supposed to be,
That horizontal or that vertical kind of.
well, not just even vertical, like, I mean, we've talked about it before, like, especially in town center, ideally, there's supposed to be like pool signs, not
Mhm.
like whatever. that
Yeah,
is.
I get you.
So if somebody comes with something that is different in that way, you guys, obviously, it's a taste thing, but like, is there some kind of a trigger that does something else, or is it like, if somebody comes with a weird sign and you guys don't like it, it's just, that's it?
There is always a kind of a fail-safe process. I'll do a better job of telling you where it is. I know it's in there, so, but yes. If it's not there, I think that's a fair request, that if we deny a sign, the appeal would always be to city council.
Okay.
Cool then.
Yeah.
All right. So Mr. Farmer makes the motion. Mr. Preston seconds it. Any discussion?
Yes.
Ms. McCutcheon.
So Joe, how would that work as far as enforcing what we do allow versus what we don't? Because when you think about the shopping area up there by West Glen Farms with all those 3D, like the lighted signs, I mean, is there a way to prevent that? Are we still gonna have standards, but the Department of Planning is gonna be the one who handles it versus the Architectural Review Board? Is that correct?
Could you try to mute yourself and then turn the mute back off? We're getting some audio feedback here.
I understood what she said.
Is that better?
That's much better. Mr. Farmer did hear what you said, though.
Did you want me to repeat it, Deb, or you want to say it again?
You can repeat it, that's fine. I was asking Mr. Vunich basically, how are we going to enforce the fact that somebody's following I mean, it's still going to be a code versus like the signs at West Glen Farms. Look what happened there. They're 3D signs and they're lit and you can see them from, a good distance away. So how would we prevent something like that from happening if the Architectural Review Board doesn't take a look at it? Or will it just be the Department of Planning's decision and just bypass the Architectural Review Board?
Well, the Architectural Review Board, Ms. McCutcheon, doesn't see all signs. Generally speaking, they're called out in the code. And any sign requiring a variance goes to the Architectural Review Board, and that'll probably stay just because. But in the instance of Village Plaza, a couple of those were temporary signs that were never removed. That's an enforcement action that's underway. And a couple of the signs, they took some liberties, and we're trying to address those as well. So what I'll always tell people is compliance is a partnership between the city and its authorization and the entity, in this case, the sign manufacturer and installer, following the rules. So from the perspective of the department, it only works if everybody agrees that you have to basically do what you say.
And how do you accomplish that?
Most of the time, it's not an issue. Most sign manufacturers are reputable. They understand that they generally will be back in town, and if they do something wrong, it just makes it harder for them the next time around. So again, it's not all their fault. One of the signs for the tavern, the copy wasn't very good, and the old man that looked at it didn't see it. So we're gonna address it as best we can. But what I will tell you is that Architectural Review Board had a limited role, and what limited role they did have only slowed the process down. And the intent is, again, to expedite signs where we can. And again, from the perspective of the department, signs are content neutral, so we're really not looking at what they say.
Well, that's really kind of two different things, right? Because, I mean, the enforcement side is an important part, but that's
Yep.
not this, so.
Again, it's just, how many steps in the process are you going to have? And if we can minimize it and still achieve the end result, I think that's the goal.
I agree.
Very good. Moving on to,
Do you want to vote on that?
You know,
we have to-
you
okay.
didn't
That was
vote.
the
All
discussion.
right, sorry about that. All right, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. All right, very good. All right, so now, next item was clarify again the process for temporary banners and other restrictions on these items. So the way I read this, Director Vunich, you don't necessarily expect us to take action on this item tonight. This is something you're still working on?
Well, key amongst anything we do is we have these crazy timeframes that you can have it for 60 days, then you've got to wait 30 days and
Right.
over. It just needs to be simplified. And that's what we're going to look at doing.
Okay.
The intent would be is to have attractive temporary signs, but at least give some more flexibility in terms of how they stay out. Everybody has sales, and I think what we're doing is limiting the temporary signs to a couple of sales a year, which may not be reasonable.
Okay, so would you expect to have some suggestions then for us at the next meeting?
That's right.
All right, everybody good with that? Perfect, okay. Next, reinforced processes for illegal placement of commercial signage in public rights of way. We already alluded to that a little bit, but Director, if you'd like to continue on that.
This came more from Mayor Garitano to Tom and I, just the frustration, what happens on Friday night and the number of bandit signs that appear in our right of ways, and then we pull them on Monday morning and they're back on Friday night. So it's going to talk more about just engaging the police department more and having them assist us, because we contact the the business and they're like, yeah, I know. And then they just come back because to them, it's just the cost of doing business. So I think if the police were able to enforce it a little bit better for us when we're not here, I think we'll see a reduction, a substantial reduction.
So do we need to have some formal process by which in place by which the police are contacted and how we
No.
engage with them?
It's already against the law. So in this case, it would just be directing the police department to pick up a little bit.
But they're just picking up the signs, right?
Yeah.
So we just need to make sure that we enforce the current code as it is.
Yes, having well, it's typically something code enforcement has done, but this is more so giving direction to the police department that we would like that to be part of their typical services.
Do we have fines that can be levied?
Yeah, this is standard fine, if you can get to the person. I mean, that's the thing, that usually a company will pay a sign company or a contractor to then put these signs out. And then there's an argument in court that says, okay, well, prove to me that I put the sign out there, even though it's my number, my address, or not address, but my company's name. Typically, they don't do the dirty work themselves, and we don't get pictures of them doing it.
Well, then there would be.
So the question would be, if the police go to your place of business though and say, hey, I don't wanna see these signs out there anymore, then it's a little bit more persuasive than us giving them a call and saying, hey, that's,
Do we confiscate the signs?
yes.
Yes,
What do we do with them?
they go to the dumpster.
For political signage, they can get it back. We hold it, if it's in the right of way. We hold it and they can come pick it up at any time at their leisure.
What happens with commercial signage,
Dumpster.
dumpster?
Yep.
So,
I'm sorry, Deb, go ahead. You've got your hand.
so would this apply to, like garage sale signs or, you know, we have a mattress event going on at the high school, those kinds of things?
Ms. McCutcheon, if it's in the right of way, we have to pull them, because if we treat one different than another, then we're liable for being called out to court as not being consistent.
Content neutral.
So
Key.
what I will tell you is, for garage sales and lost dogs, we generally turn a blind eye for a bit.
Okay, thank you.
Joe?
So I'm just wondering if we can do, I mean, we've talked about this in a couple other places, if we need to do more of like a data thinking here. So if the police are gonna go out or you guys are gonna go out and get them, you know, keeping track of who, it's usually the same, like 5 places. So keeping track of who it is, if we gotta take them to court and we need to, you know, prove that they put it out, we can issue discovery for their invoices to any company that is assigning signs, and if they've paid for someone, then they get to be responsible for it. And if they aren't, then it's that sign company that we can approach and do that with. I mean, it's sort of a pain in the ass, I think, to do it that way. But I also think, you know, it's the same mosquito Joes and, you know,
Power washing.
whatever power washing
Christmas
thing.
lights.
Yeah, hang your Christmas lights. So I just think if
Same
we.
company, actually, but.
I'm sure. You know,
This year?
there's a certain level of this of, you know, I think it is. If you're going to misbehave in such a way, there's nothing wrong with calling that out publicly at a certain point. You know, you ask nice the first time. We've got a whole bunch of these signs, you know, they aren't expensive to make, so it doesn't matter to them. But if you get these repeated fines and we have the data that says, hey, look, you know, Bloom Lighting or whoever it's the one I always see, you know. This is not gonna work for us, and here's what happens.
That's all I want to do, is just emphasize in the regulation that it's just not the individual that places the sign, the owner of the sign, or the individual or party involved. May not hold up in, let's say, an appeals court, but it certainly doesn't mean that we can't inconvenience them. Because a lot of the signs are also in the sight distance triangle, so it's just detracts
Should we
from.
institute a holding fee? Are you sure?
But I can check
I mean,
that one.
if you gotta store something, we're not gonna throw it out, right? We're gonna store it. We're gonna charge them to store their signs for them to come pick them up.
Do you have any comment? I would have to check the city attorney, but I don't think we can.
We dispose of the signs.
I know we do currently, but I'm just saying, like, if you gotta come up here a couple times and get all your muddy signs and pay a fine.
Yeah.
Maybe you're gonna be less inclined to do it.
That's the goal, is to, not to base it, again, these aren't local businesses. These are businesses that generally you find are in St. Charles County, the east side, whatever the case may be. But, and I know it's hard to say it to the Economic Development Committee, but we're trying to inconvenience them. So they stop using our right of ways and clutter it up with signs.
When it comes down to, I think like the way, eventually you have to do it is you have to take them to big boy court.
Great, let's do it. I mean, this is just me. We have rules for a reason, so. If we're gonna have them and enforce them, we should enforce them fully.
I don't disagree with that. It's just when, I mean, the main thing is the cost associated with it, but if they're, I think that's fair. At the end of the day, there are repeat offenders and
And I mean, I don't know how this works. Maybe you get a report, maybe we get a report that says, hey, this company has done this 200 times. Does the city council authorize and the next level of action. I think that's what it would work.
What
anyways,
would
right?
happen if we were to do as Mr. Farmer is suggesting and then have a legal cease and desist order sent to the company?
The sheriff's department would be taking care of it from there, so it'd be out of our hands, but it would be. That they wouldn't really wanna, if they got an injunction against placing the signs in the right of way, that would, I highly doubt that they would keep doing that. But then again, they could, I mean, then it would just go up to the next, I mean. Sometimes that's where,
Usually when law enforcement people show up, that tends to carry a little bit more weight than a
that's where
city
the, that's where
employee.
the
No
department's,
offense intended.
And none taken.
that's where the department's kind of heading to, is that, the idea is to kind of intertwine the police department in this a little bit more, because we're able to sometimes find where we think these came from, the business owner, having a police officer return the signs to them, not necessarily giving them a ticket too, but having that ticket delivered by a police officer, especially for repeat offenders. I mean, I think that adds weight to it versus just getting a call.
I think it's great. I just think we just want to make sure we're keeping track of how many times and that's happening and who it's happening with.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Next item on the agenda. Electronic message board background. Dr. Bunich?
Monday night, our lighting consultant will be planning, this coming Monday, I'm sorry. The first Monday in June, our lighting consultant will be at the Planning and Zoning Commission going over the steps that we should consider if we want electronic message boards, or whether it's institutional uses or town center or whatever the circumstance may be. Because there are ways to accommodate those types of signs in dark environments. Go through those ways and some of the positives and negatives. We intend to have a report to the Planning and Zoning Commission in July, and then to City Council as soon as July, if not, or no later than August. For the most part, there are some risks, but there are some benefits as well.
Mr. Farmer?
So I sent you guys this thing. I did some research on it and I think talking to people is always a great plan. My big suggestion in this is to try to keep it as limited as possible, basically to just, those taxable entities that should need to communicate publicly, because as we know, you guys aren't here 24 hours a day. And so any level of evening or nighttime enforcement, like as soon as this thing gets out of the box, I don't care what we put on the books. It's not gonna make any difference.
So basically that boils down to
Schools
two groups. Well, you have first responders and then you have schools
and the city.
and the city. So you could limit it only to first responders. You wouldn't have to necessarily allow for the schools.
Yeah. I just think, I
I'm
mean,
not saying we should do one or the other. I'm just saying, those are a couple of options.
the big thing I mean, and again, this wasn't just, this was an AI thing, but the idea would be if you're going to make our rules say that the only places that are available to do this are taxable entities, then any kind of argument outside of that, so not that they necessarily would, but if we say the fire department can, but the schools can't, then Rockwood can come and say, well, we're a tax, why can they and we can't? Just like a church or somebody else might be able to do that same thing. So if we said if you're a taxable entity, you can do it. These are the rules that you have to abide by. That, I think I was adding it up. I mean, there's like maybe 6 locations that qualifies for, and that's much easier to
Right.
manage. And then even in there's some other rules or suggestions I put in there, like if it's within 150 feet of a house, then that sign has to turn off at 10 o'clock at night or whatever it is, which is basically all of those other locations.
Right.
So this allows the public need to be serviced and eliminates the problem from this department's consent to go, well, it's 11:35 and the sign is still lit up and I have my light meter out. I took a picture and all those other kinds of things, but.
Well, can I chime in?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, if you're talking about schools, so at Clayton and 109, there is 1, 2, 3, 4 schools right there on that corner. And if you light each one of those signs up, even till, 10 o'clock, I think 10 o'clock is way too late. You might as well have one of those big spotlights going through the sky, going through the night sky.
So the only two that would
And then
qualify
there's,
are Lafayette.
and there's another one right here at Green Pines. So in Ward 5, there's at least 6 or 7 signs and a group of them right there together that would all be lit up. And then what does that do to our night sky? People west of 109 and east of 109 should have the same guidelines for signs. We're Wildwood and we all have night sky and we all want to be able to see the night sky. But if we have all these lit up signs, we're not going to be able to. I mean, just because you don't have 3 acres doesn't mean, that we can have more signs than they do because of the size of the lots, which I think is really backwards. But, I don't think it should be that generic. I'm sorry.
So appreciate those comments. So here's a point of clarification I would have. At Clayton and 109, there are actually 3 schools because you have Lafayette, you have Babbler, and then you have St. Albans School.
And there's a preschool right there also.
So it's only Babbler and Lafayette. It's only Green Pines, Babbler, Lafayette, the fire
Okay.
department, city,
And the middle school.
and the middle schools.
There's preschools.
No, they don't count because they're not taxable entities. Only other taxable entities. So only Rockwood School District schools, only the fire department or the police, which is here, only the city. All the other churches, schools, all that stuff doesn't apply because they're not taxable entities.
Okay.
Or tax collecting entities.
So you're saying that because the schools are taxable entities, they should be allowed to have lighted message boards?
No, there is a specific, I guess it's a rule, I don't know, law that says that entities that have a immediate need to communicate to the public, so first responders, taxable school districts and municipalities, that puts a kind of very neat wrapper around why a church wouldn't apply or whatever it might be. It is only like a very small handful of spaces. And then the conversation would be, when is the right time to turn something off? If it's, in the middle of summertime, 10 o'clock, it's barely dark. If it's the middle of wintertime, it's been on for a long time. But at a certain point, especially if they're close to homes, those signs have to automatically dim below a certain threshold, which means they're ostensibly very difficult to see. And more than likely, it's more expensive for them to have it that way, so they would just have it turn off.
You can have one change a day.
Schools have other ways of communicating. I mean, they have their own internal communication.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think part of Lafayette wanting a lighted sign is because the other high schools who are in different municipalities have lighted signs. And I think that was one of the motivations for Lafayette asking for a lighted sign.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure all other Rockwood schools outside of the ones in Wildwood have lighted signs. 100% of them.
But that doesn't mean that Wildwood should have them, just because other municipalities have them, even though it's the same school district.
That's true, but in this case, so our new fire department has a sign. What happens when they turn it on?
I'm gonna write them a warning notice.
But then what
And
happens?
turn it off.
And we're talking about going to the other, you go through the process multiple times, then you usually need to go through a 6-month process, and then you can finally take that issue to a higher level court that would potentially put an injunction out on that.
They wouldn't bill default till they have a need of public communication. So
So there, I mean,
Yes.
that's true. There-
fixes that. Is what I would say. I mean, look, I
we
don't
have
love,
that issue.
I don't love digital signs. I don't think they're worth a whole lot. I mean, at all. But, I think that if we don't, this is kind of one of those things I would just suggest, if we don't get in front of it, we're gonna be real behind it, and we have no way to put the genie back in the bottle.
Well, I think if we start using them, we have no way of putting the genie back in the bottle.
So, Mr. Farmer, is there a motion you would like to make?
I am happy to make the motion that, you tell me, Joe, you guys tell me this is what I had in here and I'm looking at it and it looks like the same thing, but I might be missing something. So this would be digital signage is limited only to public schools, fire districts, police departments, and the community college and the city, right? These are outside taxable entities. They have a taxing authority and a public service obligation. So it's a static message only, no animation or flashing. Minimum 10-second display time per message, maximum 60% of the sign face may be digital. Dimming required after dusk, fully shut off by 10 p.m. or in or adjacent to in residential areas. Signs must be monument style with architectural base, no pole mounted screens permitted. Religious institutions, regardless of zoning, are not eligible for digital signage under this framework. So it's outside taxing entities with real specific ways to do this.
So you're making that motion.
I'm happy to make that motion.
All right,
I
is there
can
a
make it
second?
clear for you, Colin, if you want.
But
Sorry?
you don't include it, anything about clusters. You know, like on 100 and, or 109 in Clayton Road, we have a cluster right there that every one of those could have a lighted sign.
Only two of them.
Only
can.
two of them can. Only Lafayette and Babbler.
What about St. Albans?
It's not an outside taxing entity. It's only Rockwood Fire Department.
You would have Green Pines probably.
And Green Pines.
Yeah,
Green
Pines, but I'm saying
The
like
middle
that's not.
schools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
They have to be associated with Rockwood School District directly. Is what Mr. Farmer's saying, Ms. McCutcheon.
Yeah, I understand that. It's just, like Joe said, I've been on council for quite a while, and this issue has come up many times. And I realize there are some people who want lighted signs for the schools, but once they go up, then all the residents around those, especially if there's more than one right in the same area, people are going to complain.
So we have a motion on the floor. Does somebody want to second that motion? There's a second by Councilmember Albers. Now we can continue the discussion. So
Sorry.
Deb, yeah, no, I didn't mean to cut you off, Deb, but you, please
No.
continue.
No, I didn't follow process. I'm sorry.
No,
I
that's
mean,
all right. That's all right. Not an issue.
I think I pretty much said what I said. I mean, to have, 2 or 3 or how many, that are allowed to have lighted signs in a group. I think that's an invasion of quality of life. I think it's invasion of night sky. I think residents are going to complain. The schools have other ways of communicating information than lighted signs. And I'd be willing to bet if the other 2 high schools weren't permitted to have lighted signs, there would not be a question about Lafayette and their lighted sign. My kids graduated from Lafayette, and this discussion has been going on for quite some time, and my kids aren't young. Okay. So, I don't know. It's from what I hear from residents, and I truly see their point.
So I have a question for Director Vunich. Assuming that this motion, which has been seconded, passes to allow digital signage for these entities that we've discussed, what type of an increase in workload does that create for your department to enforce the codes pertaining to these digital signs?
One of the things the lighting consultant has been asked to do by the department is provide us mechanisms so that enforcement requirements are minimized. He claims that there's all kinds of mechanics now that can be required so as those specific things that we talked about, a 10-second duration, a 60% coverage, those can be hooked into the sign, and we can limit how they can be manipulated. At least that's what he's told us. So that would be the goal, is to minimize the amount we have to be out there, because we make sure the sign contains all the components to achieve our goal. So that's one of the critical roles the lighting consultants is playing. Many of the things that Mr. Farmer just mentioned, we've already talked about with the lighting consultant. And he's a strong advocate. At a point at night, they just go off because there's nobody there to see them.
So, and then just to, I guess, clarify a little bit, it is possible that the Planning and Zoning Commission could come up with some completely different recommendations than this committee may vote out tonight. And then we'll still have a discussion in front of the entire city council on this particular topic.
So
So,
discussion either way.
yeah,
But I will assure you that your motion, if approved tonight, will be a component of the discussion we have when the report. I'll include it in my report. I think I didn't see anything there that was inconsistent with what we've been talking about. The only thing that we did collectively as the department, we were recommending that it be a conditional use permit process. That way it gets the scrutiny of the
Yeah.
neighborhood, the commission, and you.
okay, very good. Further discussion. Jim, you've been quiet for a while.
Can you enforce this?
I think so. Again, because we're asking the lighting consultant to give us the tools that make it easy to enforce, instead of like everything else relative to lighting. That's just hard.
How about 10 o'clock is late to me? 'Cause I go to bed early now.
Well, I'll leave that up to you all, but like I say, there
It's not
there
gonna
should be a
affect me,
shut
that's all.
off. There should be a shut off. At times.
I could do you want me to reread this thing so everybody knows what it is? Or-
Absolutely.
So, I move that we adopt a policy allowing limited digital signage only for public institutions with external taxing authority, including public school districts, fire protection districts, police departments, and St. Louis Community College and the city of Wildwood, subject to the following restrictions. Message must be static with a minimum display time of 10 seconds per message. No flashing or animation. No more than 60% of the total sign face may be digital. The sign must include automatic dimming after dusk and full shut off no later than 10 PM when located in or adjacent to residential areas. This is where we can come up with something else. All signs must be monument style and architecturally compatible with adjacent development. Pole mounted screens are not permitted. This policy shall not authorize digital signage for any other commercial, nonprofit, or other private use business. Staff shall incorporate these provisions into the forthcoming ordinance for council review.
All right, thank you. So discussion is still underway. Any final thoughts, Cliff, anything? It's kind of a big deal, so that's why I'm going around the table 1.9.
I'm sort of thinking, going around school by school, and I don't see it being 10 o'clock being an issue really with most of these
Okay. Chris?
myself.
I mean, I've thought about it pretty well. I would agree. I mean, 9, 10 o'clock. I mean, at that point, who cares? I mean, you're
All
not.
right.
person.
Deb, final thoughts before you vote?
No, I think I've made myself clear.
Okay, all right, very good. So motion and it's been seconded regarding the digital signage. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Abstentions? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
You should get it easy now.
Are there any there's none you have to get rid of, is there?
No.
Yeah, okay.
So that takes us to ready for action, master plan update 2026 economic development element.
Here on Berger, as we've been sitting here, there is one, before we jump into the economic development element, with the pretty large turnover, I know that the current economic development committee members didn't get a chance to review this survey. I just wanted to, would it be appropriate that we would give them some time, since we do have, it seems like we have some differing approaches, and there's some feedback that was gained from this discussion earlier tonight, that we may want to incorporate. I know the drive-through wasn't included in this feedback, and some other components we've discussed.
So as a suggestion to
To
postpone
potentially
this to the
postpone
June
with
meeting.
and extend the survey timeline. We've got.
And send it to the new people.
And send it to the new individuals.
Okay. Does that still keep us on schedule for completion of the master plan?
Yes, sir.
So does anybody on the committee object to that? Do we need to take a formal vote on postponing this?
Yeah, if we could take a formal vote to postpone and bring back at the June meeting.
I'll make the motion to do so.
All right, so Councilmember Preston makes the motion to postpone this discussion to the June meeting. Councilmember Farmer seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions, motion carries. Not ready for action, nothing.
Perfect.
All right, miscellaneous, the only friendly little reminder going out to everyone is, things come up from time to time as we move forward. If anybody cannot attend a particular Economic Development Committee meeting, it would be greatly appreciated if you would let us know ahead of time. What I will try to do is, besides the agenda going out from Mr. Lee several days ahead of time, I will try to send out a reminder email that the meeting is coming up, so just to jog your memory. Like I said, things come up, everybody's gonna miss a meeting from time to time, but there were several instances last year where several of us showed up for a meeting, we did not have a quorum, so we had to go home. And if we know ahead of time that we're not gonna have a quorum, then we can let people like Mr. Boonage and Colleen and Paula go home at the end of the day rather than sticking around here for a meeting that's not going to take place. So assistance there would be appreciated. All right, next meeting, Monday, June 16th. Oh, Colleen.
Just a reminder, we're trying to get away from making copies. So if you need something, let us know, but we're not making copies.
I don't get copies anymore?
Oh, you get copies for the council agenda, but that was,
This is for this meeting, because we end up throwing most of it away. And
no, it's just like general copies. She's talking about, we had a policy before, we'd print out like 15 copies of every single document.
yeah,
And then we
I'll
realized
give you
that,
$100 of my pay if you just make me a copy.
that's okay. You could, as a council member, that's part of your work.
$100.
No, no,
If-
no,
$300.
nope, not needed. As a council member, you can get your copy. No.
I'm old school, I'm sorry.
No, we can get you
we
copies.
can make
We
you
can get
copies.
you copies.
We're just not gonna do.
Mr.
general-
Crans, anything.
Jim Cran's rule.
Yes. Next meeting date, Monday, June 16th, 5:30 PM. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Made by Mr. Farmer, seconded by Mr. Preston, non-debatable. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
One last comment, Deb, I think I kept you waiting a couple of times longer than I should have. I apologize for that.
No problem.
All
It's a
right.
little hard to follow somebody when they're not